As soon as we saw the giant Bron in Chapter 5, a ton of questions hit us at once. And the truth is, he wasn't placed there just because. He was put there to show us the prototype's real weakness. That's right, friends. At first glance, it just feels like another disturbing horror scene they wanted to leave us with. But if you actually analyze it, you'll realize this single scene with Bron says way more than it seems. So, are you ready to know the truth? Well, before that, I need a favor. If you want us to keep making more videos like this, we need your support. Please share the video with your friends to let us know you're enjoying this content, and we'll keep pushing harder every single time. With that said, let's begin. First of all, who is this Bron? If you don't know yet, or if you're a big Poppy Playtime fan, you'll remember that the first Bron with life we ever saw in the game appeared in the VHS tape titled Restricted Restoration. In that tape, we met Thomas Clark, a Playtime co-employee who had cancer and volunteered to become an experiment. That's how he was transformed into a small dinosaur toy named Bron. The problem was, the experiment didn't go the way they expected. When he was introduced to the other toys, they attacked him so brutally they almost killed him. And during the Hour of Joy, they finally did it. Knowing all of this helps a lot, because many people believed that this small Bron had been transferred into the bigger body version we see in Chapter 5. If you remember, the bigger bodies are the massive toys like Catnap, Huggy Wuggy, and the rest. So, this enormous Bron, well, he's someone else. Someone we still don't know. But here's what really matters. He doesn't attack us, which means he's not evil like the other enemies we've faced. You could even say he's more like an ally, similar to Kissy Missy. But well, before we get to the prototype's biggest secret, we need to clear up a few doubts. I know some of you are gonna ask about the other Brons we've seen dead and destroyed around the factory, or even in the Salvation ARG. Those Brons aren't that important. As we've seen, Playtime co-experimented on countless children, and over time, many of them were simply killed, so the surviving experiments would have some food. That leaves us with two completely different Brons. The small one, which already died, and the changed giant we saw in Chapter 5. One of the theories that makes the most sense about what happened to this massive version of Bron and the prototype's secret is that he was damaged and attacked by the prototype himself. But why? If we remember correctly, the Wrong Side Automals were a discontinued toy line because they didn't fit well with Playtime Co.'s main product line. Because of that, the prototype felt identified with them and decided to give them life, or you could say a second chance. At this point, we can basically consider them his children. And remember, food inside the factory had already become scarce. So, what better way to feed your own children than with the most innocent dinosaur you can find? Now, here's where things get interesting. The scene we see with this Bron is recent. His insides, his stomach, and intestines still look fresh. If that had happened weeks ago, or even days ago, there's no way Bron would still be alive in that state. Honestly, I don't even think he would have had organs left. They would have eaten him completely from the inside out. So now that we know this just happened, it makes a lot more sense why they did it. And what I think is this. The prototype wanted his adopted children, the Wrong Side Automals, to be stronger than ever, because Playtime Co.'s Butcher, the player as he's called in Chapter 5, had already reached the laboratory areas. So, in a way, what they did to Bron tells us a lot more than we first realized. If the prototype wants his allies to be stronger than ever because the Butcher has arrived, that means one thing. He's afraid of Player. And with everything we've said so far, it sounds like we've solved both what happened to this Bron and the prototype's weakness, right? Well, no, friends. As logical as it sounds, there's something that contradicts it, and at the same time connects directly to it. It's the line that the Automals say when we reach the boiler room area.
When Bron eats, we all eat.
When Bron eats, we all eat. That means one thing. Bron has been like this for a while. So this isn't recent. This is how the prototype has been feeding the Automals. But what does that really mean? What are they feeding Bron that allows the Automals to eat without Bron dying from blood loss? Or without his organs disappearing? Simple, friends. The answer is literally in Bron's mouth. If you pay close attention, the developers left a small detail there, something only the most observant players would notice. Bron has drops of regenerative gel in his mouth, the same gel we kept seeing throughout Chapter 5. That's the answer. The prototype feeds Bron the gel so his intestines, stomach, and organs regenerate, turning him into an infinite food source for the Automals. And here's the key part. They cannot let Bron die, because if he dies, the food supply ends. Now, I don't think the gel alone is what feeds Bron, because if that were the case, why wouldn't the others just consume the gel themselves? What I think is happening here is something much more disturbing. The prototype takes pieces of Bron's organs, mixes them with the gel, and creates a cycle where Bron is forced to feed on himself, endlessly. That's why around the boilers, in the area where Bron is kept, there are multiple small Automal houses. They're there to make sure no other experiment comes in, eats Bron completely, and kills him. They know the process. First, he has to consume the regenerative gel. Then they wait for his wounds to heal. And only then can they keep eating him again and again, infinitely. This would also explain why Bron had the grab pack in his mouth when the player arrived. As we saw in Chapter 5, information spreads quickly across the factory. Bron knew the player was coming, and possibly that he could defeat the prototype. So he hid the grab pack inside his mouth, preventing the prototype from destroying it and leaving the player defenseless. We even saw a similar reference when Chomp Chompkins put the player in his mouth to hide him from the prototype. This Bron doesn't want to keep living like this. Being eaten and regenerated over and over again must be unbearable. He wanted to help the player so Bron could finally end his suffering. That's why when we approach him, he doesn't attack us. He just looks at us. So then, what is the prototype's true weakness? Possibly that he's scared of player, and also possibly the gel. Compared to the other experiments, the prototype doesn't seem to have an obvious way to eat. His face looks like nothing more than a mask. Although, who knows, maybe he can remove it and feed that way. But I believe he understands the gel better than anyone else, which means he might be using it to maintain the strength and energy required to move his massive body. Anyway guys, tell me, what do you think about this hidden message they left us with Bron? Do you have another theory? We'll be reading you in the comments.